You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Oh, good morning! Hey, look at us, all three of us, the three amigos, back together once again.
Oh, welcome back.
Right. There's only one person to blame for that, mate.
I do apologise for missing last week's. We've gone into contract negotiations and they paid my salary, so we're back, baby. Stevie's coughed up the money and I am on a good wicket again, so I'm happy to be back here. I do apologise, writer's block and all that sort of stuff. We are back, North East Footy Show podcast. Welcome on in, where we talk Newcastle, Middlesbrough and Sunderland every Saturday around about this time. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Check out
what me and Steve do. Yeah.
And, well, I mean, old blue screen over here. We'll talk about that with technical difficulties. I'll tell you what, he's lucky we even let him on anymore. Jimmy, if you're listening, call me. I hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. We got a lot to talk about. We got Newcastle, who played midweek. Middlesbrough played last night. Sunderland playing today. And then Newcastle obviously playing again on Monday. Always lots to talk about in the Northeast world of football. Let's start off with the big win for Newcastle United. Coming back after the game, after the cup. It could have been all forgotten. All the boys were just out, and the lads, out in the drink, probably rocking up to football. Forgot they had to play Premier League, but they did it. They rocked up and they had a eye-catching performance, Steve. A good, solid win, mate. And honestly, it could have been forgiven, I think, after that historic cup win, to then rock up against Brentford and maybe just fall away, but you didn't. Newcastle becoming out victors against a tough opponent, 2-1 in the end. Alexander Isak scoring that incredible goal-scoring run. But I tell you what, that cross from Sandro Tonali that turned into a goal, mate. What a win. What a win that was.
A great result. It was always going to be difficult coming back from, a couple of weeks off, winning a cup for the first time in God knows how long. And then all the parade celebrations, international breaks, trips to Dubai. They've had it all in the last couple of weeks. But the professionalism was there, and the Eddie Howe side of, the takeover era was there. We found this defensive resilience against West Ham, and we seem to be perfecting it because of, as most of us, have discussed on here as well. There is a bit of nervousness every time Nick Pope's in goal. Newcastle have reverted back to defending in numbers and making sure that Nick Pope's protected. Couple of situations from Nick Pope, a couple of flaps, a couple of whoop, where's he going? But you know what? It was a professional performance. There was some standouts. You're always going to say Alexander Isak. He scored 20 goals. He scored 10 goals at home. He scored 10 goals away. He's not a homer. He can score goals anywhere, and he can score goals for fun. First Newcastle United player to score 20 goals in a season in consecutive seasons. Not even Alan Shearer did that. So that is a testament to the guy and his strengths. He still needs to improve. The frustration on Harvey Barnes' face when he didn't cross that ball in early enough for him to slot the ball home, was there to see. It was an interesting dimension in the game, that. But overall good performance. Back four will always be my preferred players. I was a defender myself back in the day in the amateur leagues, and Dan Boom, he's a colossus. He's had a great month. Scores a goal in the cup final, gets a call up for England, almost scores there, wins Player of the Month. I mean, he's epitomised the spirit that's at the club at the minute. But he's been great. But special mention to the two fullbacks. Tino Liveramento's playing out of position. He actually crosses a ball better on the left-hand side than he does on the right, and Eddie Howe picked that up in his press conference yesterday. But he was outstanding again against Brian and Boomer, who, of course, has been heavily linked with Newcastle for the last 18 months. He didn't get a sniff. He scored, but it was a penalty. And I do think that, Tino stood out massively midweek. And Kieran Trippier, who, of course, was the subject of a Bayern Munich bid not so long ago, and deemed, not good enough to be the captain of the club anymore, replaced by Bruno, and seemingly looked as if he was on his way out. Talk of a new contract for him now, which I wouldn't say no to, because of his experience and because of his leadership. And when he's still able to put performances like that in the Premier League, you'd be stupid to let him go. So I think at least another year extension for Kieran Trippier, if we can persuade him to stay, would be positive. But yeah, it was good, and the atmosphere was different, lads. That was because we've won something. For me, it felt that way anyway. There was less restraint on the crowd. There wasn't that nervousness that you often have in Northeast football crowds, where it's that kind of. Oh God, we've scored, but they're guaranteed to get one back. We'll probably lose this game. There's none of that kind of, there's none of that kind of feeling. There was, the singing was sporadic, but it was from around the ground, and it just felt like a weight had been lifted as a Newcastle United supporter, and that's great. It's great, it's a big difference. So, yeah, very happy. Obviously, it took us back up to 5th on the night. We're back down to 6th because Chelsea won. But 9 cup finals to go for Newcastle, and a real opportunity, for Newcastle with the game in hand to get to the Champions League this season. It's going to be tight. Leicester at home, Leicester away on Monday, and then Manchester United at home are the next 2 fixtures. Taking them in those 2 blocks, if we can get 6 points out of those next 2 games, and depending on what happens around us, we could be in a little position, and anything can happen. Look what happened to Bournemouth midweek. Got beat off Leicester 2-1, off Ipswich 2-1, and you're looking at those kind of results and thinking anything can happen. So we've just got to maintain that level of professionalism, maintain the same standards that we've had over the last couple of weeks, and Newcastle will be fine. And I think we'll be at the top table of European football again, as predicted. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unreal, isn't it? I told you I should have done this week's show. He's back.
Sorry, Australian internet. No, honestly, I think what the main thing for me taking out of it, I think after a cup final, and such is the longest wait, that if for a Northeast football team to win a cup, to then rock up into the Premier League, to have that sense, I think as a player that we've done it, we've accomplished what we needed to accomplish, and to then turn the gears back on, or the mentality back on, I think it's a credit to Eddie Howe and the team to then get the backup up for Premier League. Because I want to ask you now, Steve, what do you think is the realistic expectation now for the rest of the season? You've won the cup, you've got the silverware in the cabinet, you've got European football next season because of that win now as well. Is it realistic now that Newcastle can sit down and Eddie Howe goes, right, we need to push for Champions League? Or is it a case of, lads, you've done pretty well, let's just...
No, there's no flip-flops on. It's St James's Park. Newcastle are very focused. You can see it and you can hear it. That goal from Tonali, he was a bit too honest, wasn't he? He said it was a cross shot. He said 70% cross, 30% shot, but it was just too hard. That's what he said. And if he hadn't said that, I was probably up there with goal of the season. But he's probably still will get some kind of recognition, I think, at the end of the season. But yeah, I think you can see it in the team. They aren't finished yet. They are 100% focused on getting European football. What will play its part, of course, is injuries, suspensions. We've got 2 players currently, two players currently on that kind of yellow card tightrope again, and we've just got to make sure that they don't get booked in the next 3 games, and then that's done for another season. But from our perspective, you can see the players are focused. Anthony Gordon, obviously, was injured with England. Eddie Howe was very, very diplomatic and didn't give much away again at the press conference yesterday, saying that decisions would have to be made on Isak and Trippier and Gordon, but Gordon's suspension's lifted. Gordon will be coming back in. Harvey Barnes is playing well. Barnes is showing now with a run in the team what he can actually do, and you're just looking at the squad and thinking, yeah, okay, it's not the strongest squad, but the main thing is players are coming in and they're doing their jobs. And yeah, I've got no problems. I think Newcastle United will certainly not be in the Conference League. I think Champions League, is in their hands. And, the games that we've got to play against the likes of Aston Villa and Chelsea are very important. Arsenal to a lesser extent. You'd like to think the European positions will have been, sorted by the time we get to the Arsenal game at the end of the season. But beat Villa, beat Chelsea, and win those other games. Newcastle will give themselves a hell of a chance. Man City's your biggest threat for fourth, but don't forget Champions League goes down to fifth this season. Yep. So I think Champions League, yes, 100%. And don't forget my prediction at the start of the season. I wasn't far off, and I'll get it. See if I can find it. Here it is. Yeah. So Jamie Carragher at the start of every season always asks people for their predictions, and he gives his predictions. His prediction for the top of the table was Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Manchester United, and Villa. Mine was Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle United, Villa, Liverpool, and Spurs. So my league was completely out, but Newcastle United finishing third is what I'm looking at. Look, Newcastle could finish fourth. I wasn't far off with that. Yeah, and underneath that, I put Newcastle's first domestic trophy since 1955 will be the FA Cup final. I was confident of winning the trophy this year. So yeah, I got the wrong cup. The one thing that I still love about this tweet is that Melly Barnes, who has his own podcast, his Manchester United podcast. He's from Ashington.
We know Melly.
Put two laughing emojis. So I do keep reminding him about that every time I speak to him. But look, I'm
funny. Melly hasn't asked to be on this one, Steve, has he?
No.
I'm sure he'll come on at some point. But you know what? It's just it's been great. I'm happy if the season ends and we didn't win another game. I said after the cup final, it would be disappointing, but I would be happy with what we've done this season because we've lifted that proverbial monkey off our back. So it's great. It's great, right? Good to be a Newcastle fan at the moment.
It's honestly incredible. And to have, a game in hand as well, obviously only the 29 games played, everyone around you's 30. To me, the Premier League is shaping up quite nicely. That big win for Liverpool over Everton this week, which didn't seem massive, but I think we can safely say that Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest are in that top three. Can Newcastle shut down and catch Nottingham Forest, who are 7 points above you? But you've got that game in hand, so technically it could be 4. And that's the real sort of battle for me. I think Liverpool are going to run away with it now, obviously. But that as you said, the Champions League goes to the top 5. Man City have been faltering. Chelsea, who knows what teams they rock up? But that top 3 have been quite solid. Nottingham Forest again. What a surprise they've been this season.
Great team. I'd love to see them win the cup final. I'd love to see them win the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
You look at that. I think Forest Villa would be the final I would want.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see Forest win it. I think they're great. I mean, I think we all look at Man City and think, well, they've got a poor season, but it looks like they're going to get Champions League and they're going to win. They're going to win the FA Cup. But it doesn't work out like that. And Man City is still struggling. They've lost Haaland now. Yes, Mamouche is coming in and he's finding the back of the net. His figures are fudged a little bit for me because Pep's going, he's got a great strike rate. Well, not really, mate. 3 of those goals were against Newcastle. I don't think he's the answer. And Jack Grealish, I felt a bit. I'm not a Jack Grealish fan, but I felt a little bit sorry for him. I listened to his interview on Match of the Day afterwards, and he was. Yes, he was emotional. I mean, it was on the anniversary of his brother 25 years ago. But just something about his interview and the way that he was moving around, and I've never seen him like that before. He was very nervous, and then he seemed quite upset about the amount of game time that he'd been given, and he felt that he should have been playing in the FA Cup game. I've never heard anyone speak out against Pep's decisions like that. I just found it really strange, and I did feel a little bit sorry for him. Again, he's another player that's been linked with Newcastle this summer. I think that's bizarre, really. Because Newcastle just couldn't afford his wages. He'd have to take a huge wage cut. I think that would upset the dressing room. But hey, no doubt the kid's talented, but financially, I just think that would break the budget. And would he fit our midfield? I very much doubt it. We need a right winger. We do need a right winger. Brian, I would take him, definitely.
Well, big news as well from Man City is that Kevin De Bruyne is stepping down at the end of the season as well. So Man City are starting to get some of those players that we've watched for years and years destroy the Premier League, starting to get to that age limit or to that moment where they're starting to move on. And Kevin De Bruyne is going to be a massive loss for Man City. Newcastle will be looking over their shoulders, I think, as well at Aston Villa, who seem to have timed their run quite late as well. Marcus Asensio and Marcus Rashford both coming in. What a January it was for Aston Villa. It seems to have turned their tides as well. So it's going to be very interesting. And I think it's a battle of the sort of, I guess, from anywhere from Arsenal down, Teddy boy. Nottingham Forest obviously are solidifying that third spot. 7 points at the moment with Newcastle a game in hand, mate. But for me, anywhere between 4th to 7th in Aston Villa, you got 4th in Chelsea to 7th, can really move around. I don't see Brighton, even though Brighton technically are in a points battle, I don't see Brighton coming in and making a push for that top 5. But it could still be anyone between Chelsea right down to Brighton, if not Fulham.
Yeah, Brighton are probably a little bit too inconsistent to be really pushing for that sort of spot at this moment in time. They can go out and, fantastic performances and go and win away at St James's Park, but then they can get thumped 5-0 off Bournemouth or somebody like that the next week. So it's a little bit topsy-turvy. We're talking about Newcastle's inability previously to beat sides in and around them or mid-table sides, especially at home where the form hadn't been great. They did exactly what they needed to do, and that's get the win at a time when it would have been very, very easy for Newcastle players to just kind of go, like Steve said, the weight's off their shoulders. They could have just went, oh, we've won a cup, great. We don't have to think about anything more for the rest of the season. So to get that level of intensity back so soon after, open top bus parades and all that sort of thing, to get that intensity back was pretty admirable, to be fair.
Yeah,
and that's probably a bigger win than winning away at Old Trafford, to be honest. That win in midweek, Steve, I think that's a turning point for Newcastle.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I agree.
To get a big 3 points like that, it proved a point. You can beat those middle table sides. You can raise that expectation from the players again. So I honestly, sticks in my throat. I can see you definitely getting Champions League football this season, and to be honest, you really need that for the simple fact that great, you've won the cup and that gets you into the other European competition, but you don't want that. The way those fixtures are played, that knacks you really for your squad. You need a massive squad to be able to compete in the European. I'll call it the European Cup Winners' Cup. People will know what I mean by that. Cup Winners' Cup, and then into Premier League games. It's a bit of a fixture pile up that, so it's really important. Not just from the money aspect, but from a squad aspect that you get Champions League football, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be an interesting end to the Premier League season, one to watch, especially with the teams starting to find form. And honestly, obviously, Newcastle winning that Carabao Cup, cementing that place with European football, whether it's Champions League or not, is massive for next season as well going in. And it's obviously FFP, one to watch as well. Nottingham Forest, obviously breaking the bank when they first went up, and now look at where they are at as well. So it's a very, very interesting to watch. Let's drop down to the Championship, where Middlesbrough had a fantastic win last night. Last night they were at Ewood Park against Blackburn Rovers. Now, for those that remember the Blackburn Rovers days, if you're a Premier League, you will remember Blackburn Rovers, the 1995, the Alan Shearers, the Andy Coles. Well, Blackburn Rovers are in a right mess right about now, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, it does look like Blackburn Rovers are close to, if not falling out of the Championship, the way they're running. They're on a 6-game losing streak. They've lost their manager in John Eustace, who's now gone to Derby County. They've got absolute riots against their ownership in the Venky's group out of India. They are also under investigation out of India for money fraud and laundering. So, I mean, it's just all over the place at the moment for Blackburn Rovers. But Middlesbrough went there looking on form and were able to take away the 3 points in 2 goals in 10 minutes. And then we just sat back and sat on the couch and let Blackburn fail away, which was incredible to watch because we didn't play football after 10 minutes. We just sat back. But 2 goals in the first 10 minutes saw Middlesbrough win a 2-0 victory. And to me, it's the run we've been waiting for. It's Michael Carrick's red and white army. I tell you, it's incredible because we've been waiting. We've been waiting so long to see Middlesbrough go on a run like this, and maybe, just maybe, we have timed our run perfectly at the right time of the season. For 3 wins in the last 4, one of them being a draw as well, sees Middlesbrough rise up to 5th. Obviously, they have played a game extra though with the other championship teams to play today, but we are looking at the table now very, very, very carefully, our Middlesbrough fans, daring to dream once again. The team looks a team renewed. The signing of Illing Jr. as a left back has been absolutely incredible. England under 21, moving him to a left back has just been like the Ryan Giles 2.0 when Michael Carrick first came in. He's been trying to still make Iron Archer as a Tubarak Pom 2.0, and it's not really paying off still. Iron Archer working as hard as he can, getting a goal as well last week against Oxford, but still hasn't really found his feet yet. But Tommy Conway, I tell you what, he can just score when he wants, that kid.
What a goal.
Absolutely incredible.
What a great goal.
Absolutely turns and flicks, destroying the defender and then finishing coolly to the right as well. Stevie boy, I tell you what, mate, as a Middlesbrough fan, we're all on a bit of cloud 9. We're up to 5th now. A couple of weeks ago, we were sitting here talking about the sacking of Michael Carrick. We heard rumours. I'd been spoken to about, the club interviewing other people. I mean, we were sitting here saying it was all done and dusted as we were languishing down in 12th. Well, flash forward 5 weeks later, mate, we're up to 5th with 4 wins on the trot.
What do we know? What do we know? Yeah, I mean it's setting up nicely. And if you remember at the start of this process, lads, when we launched our online process, my prediction was both of you to be in and around the playoffs and potentially playing each other in the final. It's possible now when you look at it. It really is possible. I mean, Sheffield United still my favourites to win the league. Leeds, maybe not falling apart as badly as normal, but they're still trying to chuck it away, aren't they? But then Burnley, Sunderland, Borough, Coventry. Wow, Burnley Borough at the moment is one leg, and the Jimmy Hill derby is the other one. Sunderland versus Coventry. You've got to look at it and say Coventry, for me, are the dark horses in that little 4 set, and it's it's Lampard, isn't it? It's the whole Lampard effect. Lampard versus Carrick final, possibly. It could be, battle of the 2 old England boys, but it's really exciting. It really has started to wind up, and I'm not going to discredit West Brom and Bristol City because they're keeping that on the shirt tails, if you like, the coat tails. But we'll know, I think, in the next couple of weeks. The next couple of weeks are vital for everybody. And what normally happens at Easter is we find, the men from the boys, and I think that's what will happen. And I think various results will see Mowbray as West Brom and Leicester's and Bristol City, drop away. I think it's too much for Watford or Norwich to come through. I think that's what playoff for, and it's now about jockeying for position. And it's now whether Leeds drop out of that automatic 2 and whether, whether it's Burnley or Leeds. There's so many permutations. Leeds, Sunderland in the playoffs, a repeat of the 73 Cup final. It's an amazing set of teams. It's great the way that it's worked out. Borough's found the form at the right time. The one thing you can say with Borough is obviously they've played that game more, potentially we could be looking at Borough dropping back down, but I just think Borough's got they've got the kind of bit between their teeth, and they've just come into a bit of form at the right time. So I think that'll be year 4 in the playoffs, but it's exciting. It's great. It'll be, and it's good for this podcast. We've had a trophy on Tyneside. It would be great. It really would be, and I always say that with meaning. I'd love to see all 3 teams from the North East in the Premier League. It's for me, it's the only way. I'd love to see a level playing field. We're all competitive, so I have a real top dog of the North East competition. I know we're a long way off from that at the minute, especially with the fact that Newcastle have got PIF behind them. But it would just be great, and even just having a little bit of company next season from one of you guys would be great. It would be fantastic. I'm hoping, of course, it's Sunderland because they do tend to roll the red carpet out for us when we go down there.
Free beers, I've heard, at Stadium of Light next
chocolates.
Absolutely telegraphed that one,
I mean, honestly,
I could just see you start to smirk, and I knew what was coming. Like,
I can't be too nice.
no.
We're going to talk about the upcoming fixtures right after the break, but obviously, Teddy boy, big game today against Moggers Men. But Middlesbrough, mate, seemingly have turned their fortunes right around. After January, mate, we were left all at sea, losing, obviously, Latte Lath for $22 million to Atlanta. It was incredible to see the four. We had 5 or 6 losses, I think, on the bounce there. We had injuries galore, not a fit centre-back. Well, somehow, some way, Michael Carrick has turned it on again. Steve Gibson has avoided sacking Michael Carrick, which I think would have been just, say, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. If he had been sacked, I think no one would have blinked an eyelid. But he's kept him in the hot seat, and he's managed to turn the fortunes around. 3 wins in the last 4, one of them being a draw, mate. They're up to 5th, obviously a game in hand. But honestly, is it the right time of the season to be hitting that form?
I'm going to rain on your parade. I'm not convinced. Great win. Blew them away in the first 10 minutes. That's great. And like I say, that Tommy Conway goal was absolutely exceptional bit of skill and exceptional bit of finishing. I'm just not convinced because I'll tell you why. It was a narrow win against Oxford the week before. And I don't think you could call it a convincing win. And then the game against Blackburn in all sorts of trouble. I think the fixtures have helped Middlesbrough at this moment in time. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need a bit of luck, and you've got to change your own luck. Yep. I just think the next couple of games, like Steve said, I think the next couple of weeks is going to be the telling point. I really, really, really don't fancy a Borough-Sunderland playoff final. I don't want that at all. I fancy us again in a 2-leg tie. I fancy Sunderland in a one-off game. Not as confident. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where it goes. I think certainly Carrick has bought himself some time. I think some players are starting to step up. Even Iheanacho, I know he's not convincing you yet, but 2 assists last night. He's just starting to play himself into a little bit of form, which is what it's all about. You're obviously hoping for a massive favour from Sunderland today because obviously if West Brom get a win, that's you back down into 6th. So I don't know how I feel about the Sunderland match today. I know we're going to do a little bit of troll of the week, but I don't know how I feel about that. Well, let's talk about that after we see Jules' cat.
Well, it is time for everyone's favourite. It is Troll of the Week.
Starting off with this one, chaps, which is very good. Men at 25 play football, men at 40 play tennis, men at 60 play golf. Have you ever noticed as you get older, your balls get smaller, lads? New stadium in Manchester. And we sometimes chuck a non-football related one in. Separated at birth. One is a smelly old scarecrow, and the other one played Wurzel Gummidge on the telly. Best tweet of the cup final parade was this one. My favourite photo of the day. She was by herself, standing for ages, then she got a seat and wrapped her up in a blanket. There she is. That lovely old lady was at the 1955 FA Cup final parade with her husband, who was no longer with us, and there she is. The people looked after her on the streets next to the car park, which is fantastic. I was in McDonald's this week. Here we go. This is what you get with your Happy Meal. And clear racial stereotyping from Watford bringing this guy on against a Welsh club. David Badil, I wonder if somewhere John Terry is practicing using an auto cue. John Terry replied, don't use my name for a cheap laugh on social media. Dan, or what? You'll beep his wife.
Got him.
Praising mothers for mothering, do me a favour. That's their jobs. Happy Mother's Day, everybody, from Roy Keane, Esquire. Steve Bruce back in the news and back in a takeaway. The classic read the menu so they don't see me pissing. And this Sunderland fan had me hysterics this week, lads. This will be my final ride on the Go Northeast bus. Congratulations to Newcastle United on winning the Carabao Cup final. Somewhere you'll see a guy with a Sunderland strip on walking 10 miles. Last night, Will Sutton scored against Sutton. I was wondering if that's ever happened before. Did James Chester ever score against Chester? Did Dwight York ever score against York? Did Stefan Kuntz ever score against Newcastle? Who knows? And the last one this week. What's your worst ever away day story, says Liam. Izzy replies, got shagged in Sheffield Wednesday's toilets by my dad's friend. I was 17 and he was 49.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Unbelievable, Jeff. That is the end of that is the end of the cat section this week. If you've got any, send them to Ted, send them to Rye, and send them to me at our usual addresses, and we'll feature them on the show.
That is Troll of the Week. Make sure you get in touch at Ted the Mackham, at Invictus, or at NUFC Matters, or at Steve Wraith. Welcome back to the Northeast Footy Podcast. We talk Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland every Saturday right here on YouTube. You can get it across the platforms on X as well. Teddy, I want to ask you a quick question. Davey came in just before we went to Troll of the Week, mate, and he asked that age-old question. We seem to get this a lot, but I think we've spoken about this between us a fair bit, but if you could just touch on it, how do the lads feel if we do go up in terms of Middlesbrough or Sunderland to the Premier League because of how bad the current three Premier League teams, the current recent promoted teams are doing, how bad they're doing in the Premier League? Leicester City, obviously Southampton look an absolute mare, and obviously the team that blew everyone away in Ipswich Town is still struggling as well. Do you have any worries at the moment if Sunderland do go up that you will have I know, I'll speak quickly from Middlesbrough's point of view. I know if we go up, it's going to be a tough old season. And I'm not really keen on seeing us get battered 6-0 away, at Man City each week. But I guess it's that's where you got to get to see if you can actually stay up.
I think both of us, if we were to get promoted, I think both of us would probably celebrate for about 20 minutes and then go, oh. And it's not just you play Man City twice a season, and you probably expect it's a bit of a free hit, isn't it? You're not expecting to get anything out of it, but it's going away to places like Fulham and getting thrashed there, and by teams that are established Premier League sides, and that's the concern. So I do have that concern. I think both teams would struggle. Unless there was almighty investment, and you do what Nottingham Forest have done, of completely, really, really stretching those rules as far as they would go, then you're kind of on a hiding to nothing, really. So, it would be a massive concern. But at the same time, it's a nice concern to have because obviously both clubs want to be at the Championship. Both clubs shouldn't be, if you base it on support, if you base it on the size of the club, neither of those clubs should be there. The both are Premier League clubs with Premier League facilities and backing as well. So it's all about getting up there first, and then really you've just got to have the right, I hate using the term, business plan. Both owners have got to go there with the right business plan and get us to stay up there.
Yeah, I think more or less, just to wrap this question up, Davey, as well, is I think we've mentioned this as well. One thing that I've seen, and Luton are probably a prime example of this, of going up to the Premier League and using that season to kind of make sure that you're teetering. So don't get me wrong, that gap is massive coming up from the Championship into the Premier League. But if you can teeter between those two for a little bit, that's where you want to be. You want to be too good for the Championship, maybe not just good enough to stay in the Premier League. But if you can keep coming up like Sheffield United, they look like they're going to go up first again, up to the Premier League, back to the Championship. Exactly. And if you can bounce around there for a few seasons, mind you, the relegations will suck and stuff like that. But if you can build a team that sticks together through that, in a couple of years, you have got the chance, I think, to then go up and stay up because you've got that same core group and you've got that money and that financial backing of a Premier League team in the higher ends of the championship. So that's how I see it. I think at the moment is that's how you beat the gap, is you kind of build your sort of self to be too good for the championship, maybe not quite good enough for the Premier League, but you can also go up and go completely bust like Luton Town's. But I feel like Ted said, the business plan wasn't there for Luton Town. They went in and said, let's buy as many championship players as we can. Went away. Southampton, they went up and bought.
It's going to happen with Ipswich as well.
Exactly. Yeah. There's got to be a solid business plan to be set up to say, right, we are in the bottom 3 of the Premier League, but we are in the top 3 of the championship, and that's where we need to stay. Good question, though. Thanks.
The worry is for me as well. The way that Sunderland are geared up now is to bring through young talent and sell those players on. Let's say, if we do go up the Premier League this season, we absolutely keep hold of Job. We'll keep the likes of Chris Rigg. We'll keep players like that. That's great. That's fantastic for us. Yeah. But when we get relegated, the nucleus of that young side goes. We've already had one go. That was announced this week in Tommy Watson.
What did you think of that? That was a strange one, wasn't it?
About that. It was a very strange announcement, that one.
I thought the timing was weird. To announce it now. A lot of people, I'll give you my honest view on it. A lot of people sort of slated Jack Grealish when he left Aston Villa to go to Man City, but he made sure he signed his contract with Villa, so they got maximum price for him. They got the 100 million, which is transformed Aston Villa, really getting that money from the Jack Grealish sale. Tommy Watson's refused to sign the contract. It's been very much a decision that's been made a while back that he wanted out. You could see by the way Regis LeBruce was talking about it is that some people, their relationship with the club is more transactional than it is about being part of the club. And I thought he spoke very eloquently, but you could also read between the lines that maybe Tommy isn't just he's just not committed to the club, even though he's been there since he's 6-year-old. He apparently is a Sunderland fan, but he's. I don't think it's the right move for him. I really don't, and I'll tell you for why. He's 18. He's played about 10 games for us. Sure, he's got a couple of goals to his name, but he's not good enough. He's not championship standard yet. And when you look at Jack Clark, who was an absolute superstar in the championship, you couldn't hold him back. Tommy Watson isn't a Jack Clark, and you look what's happened to Jack Clark now, where he's just warming Ipswich's bench. He's not a Premier League player. No. I think it's a bad move for Tommy Watson, but I think it's a great move for Sunderland. To be honest, let's take that 10 or 11 million plus whatever sell on, because obviously Chelsea will come in and buy him for 150 million in a couple of seasons, because that's what they do with Brighton players. So I think it's a great move for Sunderland, to be honest. And we move on. He's a left winger that's a bit of a one-trick pony. He's just a spotty English James McLean.
Well, there you go. Strong words from Teddy Boy. Obviously, Tommy Watson moving to Brighton midweek. There was a lot of talk of Tommy Watson going to Brighton in the January transfer window, but I think it was a deadline day move that didn't quite get across the line. But Tommy Watson gets that move. It was a strange one for me announcing that, especially where Sunderland are in the table. I could get it if Sunderland was sort of, mid-table-ish or something like that. Yeah. But to announce it, I mean, especially for Tommy Watson, I mean, for me, it's Tommy, if I'm Tommy Watson, what heart do I have to then go out on that pitch and perform for the rest of the season? Do you know what I mean? And I think if I'm Regis as well, I think Tommy Watson is looking at the bench time. But to be honest with you, I mean, it's just, I can get it. It's the current landscape of football.
I'd keep him as far away from the first team as possible. I know he said if he plays well, he's in the side, but I'd go make him train with the under-21s.
Correct. Yeah, we've seen it with Tommy Conway at Bristol City when he refused to sign a deal. Like, I just think it's, it's on the other players that have committed to being at Sunderland. Been players that could have gone in the January transfer 100%. Window. I'm sure there was offers, but they were committed to the project at Sunderland sort of thing. And Tommy Watson's shown that he's not. So for me, I think you keep him away from the first team. And speaking of,
you want people who are committed to the cause, mate. Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
In a just shy over a couple of hours, Sunderland will be travelling over to West Brom. Moggers men. in a massive game for Middlesbrough fans to keep an eye on this one. Two teams in and around us. West Brom, who have slid down the table to 7th, and obviously Sunderland in 4th. This could be a massive outcome for Middlesbrough if West Brom were to win or Sunderland to win, keeping West Brom off our tails. West Brom on 57 points, Sunderland on 72. Teddy boy, it's a massive game today at the Hawthorns, mate. Obviously, Mogga has got West Brom playing his style of football. He's been there now for a couple of months. They're hit and miss, I would say, on West Brom. Sometimes they can rock up and put on a very good performance, but they're not shy of a poor performance as well. But I think Mogga's obviously going to have them right up for this one against Charlotte this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, look, the brand of football that Tony Mowbray deploys is fantastic to watch. It's very open. Whether he's had all of that time to sort of put his ideas into place at West Brom. Like you see, he's been there a couple of months, so yeah, they're starting to show signs of it for sure, absolutely. Yep. But yeah, huge game. One thing I love as well is it's never a bad game when Sunderland play at the Hawthorns. It's always a very, very entertaining game. There's always plenty happening. Obviously, Middlesbrough, like I said before, are hoping for a big favour from us today. Massive. I don't see it as that. I see this as a really tight one, to be honest. There's a couple of things that even though we got the win against Millwall last week, I just don't feel like we're in form at the minute. And it could have been a 2-0 win had Luke O'Nien not been anywhere near taking a penalty. That was just bizarre, absolutely wild. That Mundle obviously wanted to take it after he'd won the penalty. Got subbed straight away because he was clearly very angry and very upset that he wasn't allowed to take it. And to be honest, I think he should have been, because Mundle has that little bit of arrogance, I think, that you need to be a penalty take. Very, very confident and self-assured. I think we'll see a big performance from him today. Obviously, with God, I can't think of his name, and my mind has just gone blank. Absolutely brilliant. No, it's completely gone. French international is. It's gone. The French lad who's been injured for about 8 weeks.
At Sunderland?
Yeah. Labrie.
Oh,
no, not Labrie.
Enzo Lafay?
Lafay. Dear me.
Call yourself a fan.
What happened there?
Sorry, guys. Apologies. Ted's on that Newcastle bus. He's changing quickly. He's been caught up in the Carabao Cup.
It's been a long week.
Enzo Lafay, obviously.
Lafay is back, yeah. So that's a big plus for us. To see him sort of playing in a natural position with Mundle in the team as well, be very exciting to see that. I think Wilson Isidore needs to find his feet a little bit. He needs to stay on his feet a little bit more as well. A bit of a criticism from the Millwall games. He was going down a little bit too easy, a bit like Katie Price. So yeah, he needs to sort that out. And
allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Is it alleged? There's video evidence. Can
you send that over just so I can check?
Yes, absolutely. Just to verify for science. Huge game it is, right? And I fancy a real all-action one. The early kickoffs nearly always are. I just don't see us winning it at this moment in time. I think we're still just a little bit too shaky. I think the defensive problems are there. Mind you, Alan Brown at right back was absolutely superb last week. I think he was the best player on the pitch, barring Trey Hume, who scored an absolute peach of a volley coming into the back post as well, playing in an unaccustomed left back role as well. So fullbacks are doing their thing. I just feel like Luke O'Nien still just a little bit. I kind of watch him like that. He'll do something fantastic and block one on the line, but then he'll try and take it forward like a prime Beckenbauer, and you just think, no, you're really not, Luke. So yeah, all being said, it'll be a close one. I think it'll be a high-scoring game today as well. Do you want predictions now, or do you want
to? Let's go. Let's talk about
it as well for it. Yeah, I see a big one today. I see a 2-2 draw, which I think would suit both teams at this moment in time.
Borough.
Probably suit Middlesbrough as well.
It'll suit Borough. I mean, Sunderland are still within grasp in terms of mathematically. It means West Brom don't close that gap. Stevie, obviously it's a massive game, mate. 4th versus 7th, but Sunderland travelling down to West Brom. West Brom have faltered in the last 4 weeks or so, mate. They started off with a win in the first of that 4, but they've then had 2 draws and a loss in their last 3, mate, when they've seen them slip out of that playoff race. West Brom have been there or thereabouts, but the change of manager trying to get away from it rattling them. But we all know how you and your best mate, Mogga, are very close. How do you see this one shaping out today, mate? West Brom at home to the Mackem.
Yeah, I think this is the problem, isn't it? It's all about hitting that run at the right time, and whereas Middlesbrough have hit a positive run, Ted's quite rightly pointed out, fixtures have been kind, but you still got to win them. West Brom have faltered, and that's the big problem. Now, Borough are in the driving seat. They've played 40 games, they've got 60 points. They won the game last night on the road at Blackburn. So West Brom now they've got to put it right. They've got to get a win, and that's the pressure. We'll learn a lot about West Brom from this game. I genuinely think a draw is probably the right result. It's great for Borough. It's good for Sunderland. And I just think they'll go with a defensive mindset. Sunderland have been steady Eddies this season. They've basically, the reason that they're not sitting in those top 2 positions is because they've turned a lot of wins into draws, and that's been their downside this season. And you can point to various reasons why that's happened, but they have thrown away some games, especially at home. Sunderland's home form should have been exemplary, and they've drawn too many games at home. So, they're in the right place, and I think Sunderland have got what it takes to get that result against West Brom. I think a draw, looking at the stats between these 2 teams as well, goals scored, goals conceded. I can't see anything other than a score draw. So I think I'm going to go with Ted. I think a 2-2 draw in this one, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think it's going to be a tough old affair. Defensive masterclass from Mogga, I think he's going to, especially after the loss last week. I think they're going to set up a bit differently in the back line and try and nullify Sunderland's attack. But it's going to be an interesting one. That kicks off in about 2 hours from now. So
have we ever had this before, by the way, where we've all said it's going to be a draw? Because normally when we all say it's going to be a win, they end up getting beat. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I'm all for the stats, you know that.
Yeah, we got to see. If what the curse will do from the Northeast Footy Show pod, because normally, we do like to curse teams. Speaking of cursing teams, we've got to talk about the next fixture for Newcastle United Monday night. Obviously, Leicester City, Stevie. Obviously, Leicester are very, very bad. Let's just be honest. Ruud van Nistelrooy has not been the saviour that Leicester City were looking for. It hasn't really worked out. Midweek has been absolutely a mess, with Harry Winks being told to stay at the training and camp and sleep there overnight for Leicester City. Well, Ruud van Nistelrooy has said he expects his players to commit to the challenge, to the run-in, to get them out of the relegation. He wanted them all to camp out at the training centre. Well, Harry Winks, he had the birth of his daughter, and he said, nope, I'm going home to my wife. So bit of a fallout there. It doesn't look like Harry Winks will be involved around Ruud van Nistelrooy's crazy antics, but Newcastle United are obviously just looking to get that 3 points and move on from what looks to be a very shaky Leicester City team. I'm
just wondering, have Leicester got a player called Nod, perhaps, because it would be a great headline. A nod's as good as a wink. Anyway, listen, you're right. Leicester are absolutely awful. They really are. The statistics going into this game really surprised me. I couldn't believe how long it was for Leicester. Since the 2-2 draw with Brighton at the King Power in early December, Leicester have lost all 7 Premier League home games. They've conceded 18 goals. They've scored none. That barren scoring sequence stands at 630 minutes. Obviously, they lost 2-0 against Manchester City on Tuesday. That's their 7th consecutive Premier League loss. And it's now 670 minutes in total since their most recent Premier League goal. Not good at all, really. At their own ground, they've only won 2 home games. They've drawn 3. They've lost the other 10. So really, this should be a game where Newcastle are going down and taking 3 points. I'm fairly confident with this game, if I'm perfectly honest, despite the fact that Eddie Howe's press conference yesterday didn't fill me with confidence as far as how the injury list's going. But Eddie's a sharp poker player. He doesn't give much away. We know for definite Sven Botman, Lewis Hall and Jamal Lascelles are all out. Lascelles is training lightly on grass at the moment, but training on his own still. Lewis Hall won't be back until next season. Sven Botman, because he's only had a little bit of cartilage removed from his knee, should be back before the end of the season. But I wouldn't rush him. If he's not 100%, I wouldn't rush him. So those three definitely out. With regards to Isak, wasn't quite himself on Wednesday night against Brentford. Had a little bit of a pull of something, whether it was his groin, whether it was something else, who knows? But he wasn't 100% going into the game. Still managed to score a goal, which is great. They were going to assess him. Anthony Gordon came back injured from England. Heavy bruising, we were told, on his hip. Eddie's confirmed now it wasn't his hip, it was his groin. He said he would make a judgment on him. He hadn't trained with the first team, he'd been training on his own. Joe Linton, a little bit ginger on his knee, but he's as hard as goat's knees. He'd probably want to play. He said he'd be training and there'd be no problems with him. Trippier
expression, not like
definitely. We used to be reserved for Mick Harford, that by Joe Allen, hard as goat's knees.
Yes.
And then Billy Whitehurst. Trippier is another one who was carrying a bit of a niggle. He went off, of course, but again, he's probably going to be okay to play. The bookings I was talking about earlier, Joe Linton, 1 yellow card away from a 2-game ban. Dan Burn, 2 bookings away from a 2-game ban. 3 more games to go, and then they are wiped out because that's the way it works in the Premier League. For me, I just don't see anything other than a Newcastle United win on Monday. It depends on the margin. This is either going to be Newcastle going down with a bit of defensive resilience, sitting back, hitting them on the counter and coming away with a professional 2-0 win, or it's going to be goals galore. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Leicester, and it's not Stockholm Syndrome, I wouldn't be surprised to see Leicester score in this game. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Jamie Vardy on the score sheet. He likes a goal against Newcastle. And it could be like the Sheffield United game, this. And I would feel for Leicester. Obviously, I want Newcastle to win. I want them to do well. This could be 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It's one of those games. It's either going to be a close 2-0 or a 7 or 8. So my prediction makes sense when I say that I'm going to go for a middle-of-the-road prediction on this. Jamie Vardy to score for Leicester. Newcastle United to win by 4-1.
4-1. I mean, Teddy boy, it's shaping up to be one of Leicester City's historical makings for all the wrong reasons, mate. Obviously, they sacked Steve Cooper and they went in for Ruud van Nistelrooy. It hasn't worked, mate, for them. They are languishing down there with Southampton. Should Leicester City, how's this for a stat, ladies and gentlemen? Should Leicester City lose this game without scoring, they would become the first side in Football League history to lose 8 home league games in a row without a goal. Watford were the last team to do this, who lost 7 in a row between December of 1971 and March of 1972. I mean, that reading there for Leicester City and Ruud van Nistelrooy coming up against Newcastle United on a high from the Carabao Cup showed that they can beat Brentford. I mean, this arguably could be 12-0, Teddy boy.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm going 1-0 Leicester. I'm being deadly serious. I really am. It's just like, it's one of those where everything, absolutely everything. Steve, I'll never ever question Steve's stats. He goes through them in fine detail. I absolutely understand it all. Everything logically points to a Newcastle United win, and probably, like you said, doing an absolute demolition job like what you did against Sheffield United last season. I just think football is weird. We know that. Football is weird. I just have a weird feeling in my stomach that Leicester City are actually going to win this one. I really do. I can't see them going that long without a goal and that long without a win. So I'm actually going to stick my neck out and say 1-0 Leicester City, which I know I'll get mocked and I'll get ripped to bits over this, but we just know how ridiculous football is at times. And so, yes, respectfully, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Leicester, even though I'm probably going to be miles away.
I'm over the moon as well, because you know what happens when we all predict a win.
Very true.
I cannot win on this one, can I?
I mean, we do apologise for Ted's drunk antics. We told him not to drink before the stream for that prediction. I mean, Leicester City, the past 5 games, I mean, losing to Man City, Man United, Chelsea, West Ham, Brentford 4-0, Arsenal 2-0. I mean, it's Everton beat them 4-0, for goodness sake. I'm going to go for 5-0. To Newcastle United. I think they're just going to absolutely pants Leicester City. Ruud van Nistelrooy has got some big serious issues with this whole making them camp out at the training ground overnight when they're grown men, just to see if that'll change their fortunes or not. I don't know how a camp out's going to do that for you, Ruud, but good luck to you, mate. But yeah, I think Newcastle are going to win this 5-0. Last game we need to look at is obviously a midweek tie for Middlesbrough taking on Leeds United. We will be playing them Tuesday night before we return back.
We are as well.
What? Are you on Tuesday as well?
We're playing Tuesday as well.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll have to talk about these guys as well.
A great amount of research goes into Rise program planning.
Honestly,
I thought we were just going to talk about, we were talk about Norwich as well. Anyway, so we will talk about Middlesbrough taking on Leeds Tuesday night. It is a quick turnaround for Middlesbrough, who played Friday night, not as quick as Sunderland and the other teams playing on Tuesday night, but it will be a tough test. This is where Middlesbrough will really need to tell. I mean, Ted was absolutely right. The fixture list has been kind for Middlesbrough in the recent weeks. Well, this is the toughest test as it gets. Leeds, are they falling apart or are they the real deal? Are Middlesbrough's turn of form, has it been against worse teams, or is it going to stand up against the test of Leeds United? This is one that I'm very, very eagerly looking forward to, Ted, because this one really does, pit the men against the boys, mate. Are we for real up there, and are we back? Are we ready to push on, or are we just faltering, and have we just had a good run of fixtures, like you said? Middlesbrough will go there with some injuries. Obviously, Neto Borges coming off last night. Have we got a fit centre back or not to partner Johnny Howson? And Leeds United obviously are coming off a couple of 2 draws. They obviously play today as well, so we'll know the result of that. But it's a tough ask for me. I'm going to have to sit on the fence for this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw because I just don't see either teams breaking it. I think they're both likely to score, but I don't see either team running away for it. I think it's going to be even Stevens for this one. But Teddy Boy, Leeds against Middlesbrough Tuesday night. Yeah,
always a bit of spice to this one, isn't it? Over the years.
Yeah,
I just can't see, as much as Middlesbrough are starting to play themselves into form. Do you know what? I was going to say they'll get beaten narrowly, but I actually think you might get a draw here, and that would suit you absolutely down to the ground. I don't think you'd refuse that at all.
No, not at all.
There's always goals galore with this one as well, so I'm actually going to go for a Desmond for this game as well. I was going to say a 3-2 loss for Borough. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw instead.
Wow. Stevie, Middlesbrough taking on Leeds United at home Tuesday night, mate. It's a battle of where Middlesbrough are at for me, seeing if we ready to match it with the big boys. Is this run of form going to continue? Leeds United, who are sitting on the back of 2 draws, they obviously play today. We'll know that. But they have, we all know Leeds love a wobble. Can you see Middlesbrough getting anything from Tuesday night at the Riverside against Leeds United?
Well, because I do my research, it's a big game, isn't it? And it's not the only big game on Tuesday. This is what I was saying before about
there are other games.
Oh. Yeah, there's other games. Of course, we've got the rerun of that classic 1985 Cup final, the Milk Cup final. That was when it was a meaningless trophy, of course. Steve Bruce with a wonderful Captain Winnings performance and a 1-0 win over Sunderland. It's a rerun of that game.
It's the Friendship Trophy. Did you know that? It's called this. Honestly, no. This is the game against Norwich City and Sunderland is called the Friendship Trophy. There's some sort of weird history with that. Google it. I can't remember the exact details, but it's the Friendship Trophy. Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, that's a big game. But of course, West Brom, fresh from their performance, of course, against Sunderland, have to go in against Bristol City, away to Bristol City. So this is the key week. And this is what I'm saying. If Sunderland can magic up a win against West Brom, and then Bristol City take points off them, West Brom are virtually down and out. It plugs them right back. So it's a big week this week. But yeah, look. Borough Leeds, I'm going to go for a big Borough performance and a 1-0 Borough win.
Get in. Well, honestly, it's going to be a big one for Middlesbrough, a big test to see if they can match it with the big boys. There is other football. I've done my research right now.
Well done.
There is more football on Tuesday night. Apparently, Sunderland will be travelling to Norwich City. Couldn't believe it. 2 away games, Teddy boy. Obviously, West Brom today, but then away to Norwich. 2 tough tests, if I mind you. Yeah. Norwich obviously languishing in 10th, mate, but they're no pushovers. They've obviously got Carlos Sainz, who's leading the championship in goals as well. I think it's 2 tough games for you against 2 good opponents to see where Sunderland are going to be there or thereabouts. Again, you said the fixtures have been kind. Well, this is 2 tough fixtures for Sunderland, away to West Brom and then a quick turnaround away at Norwich City, mate. How do you see yourself faring against the Canaries on Tuesday night?
I think the Cats are going to maul the Canaries, mate. I think we're going to revert to type. It's going to be Sylvester versus Tweety. We'll break the cage. Will there be yellow feathers everywhere?
I Footy can.
I did. Anyway, I've got to remember, I'm outside on the balcony of my neighbours think I'm having some nasty breakdown. I am. I can honestly see a Sunderland win. It's a tough place to go and play your football, of course.
Not wrong.
I think a nice way. I'm going to use Steve's favourite expression, under the lights. A 2-0 win to Sunderland, I think.
Wow. Oh, well, we're going to finish off quickly, lads, as we run out of time. But I do want to ask you guys, just before we go, there was a massive talking during the week, and Davey has been right to bring it up. Tarkowski, guys, obviously that tackle, you've all seen it. We put it in the group chat as well. We were talking about it. I want to know, before we wrap up the Northeast Footy Show pod, I want to see how your VAR, what it would be like if one of us were put in the hot seat. We're in the video assistance. We got the suits on. We've got the button. Steve, I'll start with you. Would you be giving a red, or would you have been giving a yellow like he did get on the night?
Well, as I'm a member of the Centre Halves Union, that was a bloody good challenge, and it should have been higher. To only fault with that, always going knee height.
There you go. Steve's decision is obviously fair play on. In fact, give Tarkowski man of the match. Teddy boy, over to you, mate. Obviously, you've seen the challenge, mate. It was an interesting one. VAR did look at it. Was it a red card Tarkowski or not?
As a fellow member of the Centre Backs Union, I've not only rescinded the yellow card, I'd give him a new contract as well. And it was against Liverpool, so you should give Everton the 3 points.
That leaves it to me. Honestly, to be honest with you, I thought Jordan Pickford's kick on Darwin after the play, that was worse than what Tarkowski did. I thought.
Of him.
Yeah. I thought what Jordan Pickford laid in on was absolutely incredible, and I thought that should have been worse. But
did you see the bloke in the crowd run like down 2 sections to lambast? He was having a proper go.
But yeah, look, I think it was a red card. I think it was a pretty bad challenge. You could see that. And look, Tarkowski, to his credit as well, said on a different day he could have been carded for it. But against Liverpool, who really cares? You know what I mean? Get in there and have some fun with it. Especially, when you're an Evertonian. David Moyes, mind you, has turned that club around as well. Good shout to David Moyes. But Everton have got they've got a lot to work on still there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that wraps up the Northeast Footy Show pod. Once again, we have covered Middlesbrough, Sunderland, and Newcastle.
The what?
What did I say? Northeast
Footy Show podcast.
He's getting worse, isn't he? You can tell he's been away.
Honestly,
the Northeast Footy Show.
Freeze a crowd, Northeast Football podcast.
No. That's just technical difficulties, guys. Don't worry about him and his research. We cover.
By the way, before Rye came on this morning, I had a cheeky peek in his dressing room, Ted. And
all right,
you know what I found?
Oh,
go on.
Yes, he's got groupies, Ted.
Has he really? Dear me. Couple of Sheilas.
That's where he's been for the last 2 weeks.
I had to tell you, I've been in contract negotiation, guys. What can I say? And thank you for summing up and both of you taking some money out of your massive pays to pay me to be here. I will be back next week where we will talk about the results midweek. We'll be looking back against Newcastle. We might not be. I might not be. I might be busy. Do you know what I mean? Who knows? I might be on tour. You know what I mean? Who knows? I might be with Bob Moore.
Can we get on with it? I've got to go and see a man in a car park about a kebab.
Take care, everyone. Good luck to Sunderland if you are travelling. Good luck to Newcastle fans on Monday night. Good luck to Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland in the week as well. We will catch you all next weekend on Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Footy Show podcast. It has been a fantastic laugh. Bye for now.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat. It's a promise.